Hey, it's your guy Tyrrell back with the interviews. Who has the best title race in Europe? You think about Italy, but what a lot of people forget about is Portugal. Sporting, Benfica, Porto. Who is going to win the league title? This week, however, we had Porto against Sporting. The winner would increase their chances of winning the title. If Porto won, they would be heavy favorites to win their first title in a few years, whereas Sporting need to win to stay in the title race. Who would win? How would they win? Don't worry, here at the interviews, we've got you covered. So on this edition of the interviews, I'm going to briefly break down Porto against Sporting. Porto Sporting, a big match in terms of the title race in Portugal. It's a three-team race and it's going down to the wire. If Porto were to win, they would end their several-year drought, whereas Sporting would need to win this game to stay in the title race. When you break it down, not too many tactical themes, but there were some interesting points that did affect the match. When you look at the board, you got Sporting in the red, you got Porto in the blue. Sporting were more of a 4-3-3. You have Acuna, Doumbia, and Brian Ruiz up front. You had Bruno Fernandes ahead of Battaglia and William Carvalho. When you look at Porto, more of a 4-4-2. They had Marega and they had Pacencia up front. On the flanks, they had Brahimi, they had Otavio, and in midfield, they had Suarez and they had Hector Herrera. Obviously, 4-3-3, 4-4-2, you expect the team with a 3 to overload the midfield, dominate the midfield zone, but this game lacked control. It was a bit cagey, obviously end-to-end. Both teams kind of really thrived in the channels, or thrived breaking on the counter-attack and in transition. There was no period where one team was really dictating the tempo or dictating the game. It was a bit of Sporting would have a bit of an edge there, then Porto would have a bit of an edge there, but nothing really clear-cut. When you look at what went well for Porto, it had to be their front two. It wasn't the natural combination. There weren't link-ups, there weren't dropping deep and dropping wide. Obviously, there was one point where it looked like they were a bit too stagnant. They were just standing up front, and when you look at it, Sporting held a pretty high line, and that was very key because Porto didn't have anyone that was willing to really run in behind. They had Brahimi, who played a bit deeper, and he didn't really impact the game. He did score the game-winning goal, but apart from that, his influence in the throughout open play wasn't really that great. He did drop deep. It looked like he was trying to be the link because Porto lacked a link between midfield and attack, and there are times where the forwards were just standing still and not really offering much. What really worked for Porto was that the center backs, Sebastian Coates and Matu, couldn't really cope with Marega, his back to goal, his strength. He was able to turn them with ease. The problem with Marega was that his final touch or his final shot in the final third was very underwhelming. You look at the chances that they did create, they did kind of work through the channels, and that was very key for what they did. Marega had two big chances, one from a corner kick where he nodded it off the post from point blank range, and then his rebound was cleared off the line. Then the one move that really illustrated what they did well was Pacencia moving out, and he was forcing a player there. He held up the ball well. Marega saw the space, broke into the channel behind the advanced Fabio Contrao, broke into the box, 1v1 with the keeper, slides a shot wide. But that's really where Porto found their edge. And the other thing was that they found it in the space behind Contrao. You saw Marega kind of break out there on a few occasions. You saw Pacencia break out there as well. But when you look at every other aspect, Otavio was stuck with, well, not really stuck, but he provided good service for his right back. He ensured that Acuna didn't really offer anything from the left. He ensured that there was no overloads with Contrao on the left. He marked him out of the game very well. He stayed narrow, kind of helped the midfield. Brahimi didn't offer much. The center backs were very poor and very shaky. Marcano specifically, we'll get to that in a bit, even though he scored the opener. But Porto really struggled from a defensive aspect in the sense that in the first half, their pressing was very disjointed. They pressed in ones, and what happened was that Sporting was able to cut through, where instead of pressing as a unit and sticking man v man, at times it was one would press, then one would press, and then that would leave in space, then one would press, and then one would be there. It wasn't compact, it wasn't cohesive, and that was the issue that Porto had defensively. But going forward, they didn't have many options because they didn't have a link between midfield and attack. They lacked an incisive passer. They lacked a bit of protection in midfield, and that's where Sporting really hit them. Sporting, their real chances came from one player, that's Bruno Fernandes, and that's because the fact that Porto's pressing and the lack of a man in midfield really inhibited them from dictating the center of the pitch, and he was able to move out into different positions, pick up the ball, but the main area that he really picked up the ball was drifting out into that left position. With Otavio there, he was able to really get in between here and get on the ball, and that was very key. He created possibly their best chances in the first half, apart from the goal. When you look at it, he was the one who moved out left, slid the ball into Doumbia, who held off Marcano and forced a save from Casillas. Then you look Casillas, and then you look there, he got the ball again in that left channel, picked it up. Maxi Pereira didn't close him down. He fired a shot that Casillas had to push away. But apart from that, Sporting as well didn't really create many chances where you could say they were the dominant side or they really had an edge, and they didn't really take advantage of Porto's poor shape and poor pressing. And what they really did well was that there were too many gaps, and Sporting never really utilized that and really exploited that. Brahimi was cutting in a bit. Doumbia was moving out to the left flank as well. And it was funny that they scored their goal once Doumbia came off. They brought on Leao, Rafael Leao, and what he did, and it was again another counterattack. And it just goes to show that they were able to break forward, and his run across the defense was superb. Fired his shot past Casillas, 1-1, and in the second half you're expecting a bit of a change. Porto made the change in terms of just being more solid, being more compact. There was more of a press on the two midfielders. You saw Suarez get closer to William Carvalho, who had a lot of time in the first half. William's real threat was that he was able to dribble through the midfield, and that was very key. He kind of ignited counterattacks when he won the ball. But apart from that, you would see Marega most of the time drop onto Battaglia, and besides that, they were just more compact and more disciplined. Sporting didn't really have any areas to really dictate, to really exploit on the counterattack. In transition, Bruno Fernandes was quiet in that aspect, and they were just more solid in their approach. Herrera was there as well with Suarez, and that was very key in what they did, and they pressed the midfield out of the game. It wasn't really more of a pressing, but it was in the sense that they were there, they were man marking, they were getting in front of their marker, and that was pivotal. And then when you look at the game winner, again, it's down the left flank, and it's Paciencia moving into that channel, or it's down the right behind Fabio Contrao, which is on that left side for Sporting, and he moves into that channel after a very impressive individual run from Otavio, fires the ball through the box, and it's Brahimi. You look at the defenders getting pulled out. It's Brahimi coming in. No one's marking him. Poor defending. Has time to take a touch and then fire the shot past Rui Patricio. And after that, the game was kind of cagey for the most part. When you look at it, changes were made. Sporting moved to a 3-4-2-1. Montero came on. They brought in a few other players as well, but they didn't really get any chances in that regard when they changed to a 3-4-2-1. Ribeiro came on as well, and Porto changed as well in the sense that now with 3-4-2-1 they had more pace to play on the counter because their wingbacks weren't necessarily wingbacks. Acuna was playing at wingback at one point, and Brian Ruiz was playing at wingback, so they were getting forward and there was space on the counter to exploit. Abubakar came on for Paciencia, and then he had a great chance that was played in by Marega, but he couldn't get the ball over the net. It was cleared off the line. And really, when you break it down, Sporting had the two best chances at the end of the game. Montero, who was arguably offside, had a chance from point blank range. He fired a shot right at Casillas. Casillas made a big save. And then towards the end, there was a Ribeiro cross to an unmarked Leao, and he fires a shot over the net. So when you look at it based on what happened, Porto were slightly the better side in that respect. Sporting created the better chances towards the end of the game, as when Porto dropped back into a five-man defense, they created those last two chances. But when you look at it, it was very cagey, no control, end-to-end. Porto exploited the space behind Contrao. They had good chances on the counterattack. Bruno Fernandes was pivotal for Sporting in the first half, but when Porto had fixed their shape, were more disciplined, pressed better as a unit, they kind of shut that threat down, and you could say that they were slightly worthy winners. But let me know what you guys think. Meet me in the comments below. Don't forget I upload videos every day, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. And that was your daily dose of the interviews.